Hello and welcome to the 75-day challenge Sunday review. This is the first one that I'm doing. I started the challenge on a Wednesday, so it's only going to be 5 days worth of information. However, to stay consistent, I'm going to be posting them every Sunday. The purpose of the review is to condense my week of learning and growth into relevant, useful information for you. The outcomes: by the end of the video, you'll be able to get an event worth attending and a group that you should definitely add on Facebook. You'll also get two professionals you need in your network and news about the South Sound. So the event that I went to was this past Wednesday. It was the WALRE South event. WALRE stands for Washington Real Estate Investing. It is the largest Facebook group in Washington, over 20,000 members. These members are investors, contractors, lenders, agents. Everything that you need to be successful in real estate investing is in that group. Every month, they host two events. One event is in the South Sound, Tacoma. The other one is up north, typically in Seattle. I saw that they needed help to set up with the event and to manage it while it ran, so I volunteered. Part of my job was to set tables up, chairs up, also to check people in and welcome them as they enter. This provided me an opportunity to introduce myself and learn the people that were there. While there are 20,000 members in the Facebook group, not everyone goes to every event. So it was cool. I think we had about 40-ish people there, and I got to say hi to every single one of them. A few of them I will talk about when we get to the people section. The event was about perfecting ARV, which I'll make a clip about that later in this week. But when you go to these events, the topic that they're presenting on, be it a panel, expert speaker, and maybe they do some group work, that is very important. But it's the people that you meet at these events is where you get your bang for your buck. Speaking of people, these are two people that I highly recommend that you reach out to. So the first one I did meet at the event, that is Melanie Nix. She works for Flynn Family Lending. When asked what her job title is, she has no title. She does everything. And so she does everything because the process that she's trying to do is build a SOP, so standard operation procedures for the entire company. And if you know anything about Flynn, that is quite the challenge because Flynn is not the typical private money lender. What Flynn Family Lending really is great at is creative options. So they're not going to be like the cheapest. So they're not like a conventional one where if you're trying to house hack that you go through them. They're more on if you're an investor and you want to do a creative deal, they can get it done. I've seen them cross collateralize properties so that way you get into a deal with no money out of pocket. I've seen it also where they've cross collateralized, I think she said up to 3 properties. And so they can get really creative over there at Flynn. If that's something that you're interested in, highly recommend you reach out to her or the Flynn Family Lending Group. Interesting about Melanie is her goal is to house hack in Washington, so I'm really excited to see how her journey goes there. The other person that you really need to reach out to is Robert Lang. He is an agent at Engel and Volkers. Unlike other agents, he's also an investor. I'm not sure why majority of agents are not investors. I think only 10% of agents also invest. Robert has 3 properties, I think he said, in King County, and then a couple in Tacoma. But his goal is to eventually build a home in the DR with his family. Robert is also on the committee for Tacoma Housing. And so he's very knowledgeable in everything ADU or DADU. So if you're interested in building that or growing your equity through something like that, I would definitely reach out to Robert. Plethora of information. Some news in the South Sound. One topic that routinely came up in me reading throughout the week was affordability. And one study found it was cheaper to rent versus buy. This has to do with the median home price. So they used data from May, and comparably, Pierce County is 3% higher than it was last May, and Kitsap County is 4% higher than it was last May. And while they say it's cheaper to rent versus buy, I don't think they're accounting for a huge tactic that I'm a strong advocate for, and that's house hacking. Because while it's probably true based on their data that if you buy a single family, you're paying more than if you were to rent that single family house out. However, if you house hack, so in my case, if you buy a multifamily property, you live in it, you rent the other units out, my part of my mortgage would actually be less than if I was renting. If I get a roommate, now I'm going to be paying zero or none. Or if you're like, hey, I don't really want multifamily because there's multiple units and more tenants, that's okay. If you want a single family and you rent out a room or multiple rooms to friends, well, guess what? Your portion of the mortgage will also likely be less than if you were renting. So while people may say it's cheaper to rent, it is true if you just live in it by yourself. But if you house hack in any way or fashion, that's going to bring your cost of living down. The other topic that kept coming up in me reading the news was homelessness. It's rampant here in Washington, especially in Pierce County. We have a big homelessness issue. A recent study found that 2,600 people are homeless and on the streets here in Pierce County. Now, I'm not really exactly sure how they got the number, they didn't specify. But because of that number, the county has about $2.5 million in a budget to create a homelessness site. That way, they have a place to live and probably other services offered. While money is not the issue there, 2.5 million is definitely a lot. The unfortunate part is they can't find a site to build it at or adapt a building to. The issue that they're running into is a few of these cities are not interested, such as Lakewood, University Place, and Fife and Puyallup. They're either not interested or they don't have the correct zoning to permit something like that. Um, on the other side, some cities that are open to it and it's a possibility are Gig Harbor, Sumner, Ording, Auburn, and Bonnie Lake. If you know anything about those places, those are typically the nicer places as compared to, let's say, a Hilltop or McKinley Avenue. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually allow a homeless site there so the unhoused can get services in those places. That will be something that I can kind of follow along with. The county has until the end of the year to find a site. I'm not sure what happens at the end of the year. The spokesperson did not say. I don't know if they run out of the funding or it gets moved to another program. So that will be something to follow. If you have any questions about anything I've gone over or you want me to include something else, please comment below or DM me on Instagram, PE turned RE. I'm here trying to give you the information that I've gained. And if you need anything else, please let me know. I will see you next week for another review.